I want to welcome everyone to Financing a Business. Today's presenter is Shankar Hegde from SCORE Boston, and we want to thank the three participants from East Cambridge Savings Bank for being with us here today. They will be answering questions at the end that you have, and we'll go into that a little bit more. But first, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about SCORE in case you don't already know. I do have our social media there on the screen. I encourage you to follow us. We're really working on beefing that up with lots of great information on interviews with our clients, interviews with mentors, upcoming projects. It's going to be a really nice thing to deal with. But as we go into it, things that SCORE does, we provide training in the form of workshops and webinars. As you are all here today, you are aware of that. Definitely encourage you to watch for the newsletter. Usually comes out, at least for the Boston clients, on Mondays, and then the other chapters have different days of the week I think they send out, but definitely watch for that information to see what's coming up. The other thing that we have is a whole collection of information that you can find on the score.org website. There's templates you can download, blogs you can read, all kinds of great information. So strongly encourage you to check that out. The most important thing that SCORE does is the mentoring. Our mentors are volunteers, and they come to us from a lot of different backgrounds and experiences. Mentoring is always free and is confidential. We work with folks that are trying to decide if small business ownership is right for them. We're working with the folks that are in that planning phase, and we're working with folks that are already in business. We can cover and talk to you on a variety of topics, marketing, sales, financial issues, bookkeeping, work-life balance, you name it. We can find a mentor that can talk to you about those topics. A beginning session is going to be learning what your goals and challenges are. And your mentor is going to help you come up with a plan to achieve those goals and overcome those challenges. Oftentimes they'll bring in other mentors so that you end up with a team, because you'll have somebody that's an expert in financial matters and someone that's an expert in marketing, etc., that will work together to help your business be as successful as possible. So how do you get a mentor? You can scan the QR code, or you can go to score.org website, put your zip code into the little bar, and it'll match you to the correct chapter. And you can fill in the information that that you're looking for help with. So I'm going to bring down my screen. I'm going to go ahead and let Shankar start sharing his, but Robert is going to tell us a little bit about East Cambridge Savings Bank while Shankar gets set.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar this afternoon. It's nice to be back with SCORE. SCORE has been a great partner to work with, and we continue and are willing to provide these outstanding workshops. East Cambridge Savings Bank is a mutual savings bank. We are not a publicly traded company. We do not have investors. Mutual savings banks have been around since the early 19th century and are still quite common in New England today. Our bank was founded in 1854 and has been operating with the same name in charter since then, and we have never been acquired or sold to a larger bank. Now, since East Cambridge Savings Bank is a mutual savings bank, we do not have shareholders. We reinvest profits locally through mortgages, loans for small businesses, and supporting nonprofit organizations. Again, I appreciate everyone joining the webinar this afternoon. And at the end, please ask any questions that you can think of. No question is dumb, and we will do our best to get you the answers. And if we can't, we will do our best to direct you where we think we can, where you can find the best answer. So thanks, and back to you, Teresa.
Thanks, Robert. That was fantastic. We are going to use the Q&A tab. So it's on your Zoom bar. questions and answers. Put your questions in there that you want asked to either our presenter or the bank, and we will get through as many of those questions as possible. So Shankar, you can go ahead and share your screen. We're ready.
Just a minute. Okay, can you see my
Yes.
screen?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Shankar Hegde, I have been with SCORE for about 8 years. I was with a big company, and then I was with the startup, and then I started my own company. So I know how difficult it is going to be to raise the money. But what I'm going to talk about this hour or so is all the different sources of getting money. And before that, I just want to start off with why people want to start business. And then I will talk about more than one way of starting a business. And then whether you start one way or the other, the financing a business or the sources of financing are pretty much the same. I put them into 4 categories, 4 buckets. We'll talk about each one in detail. And then I have some statistics on funding, or especially how the funding is being used. Then we'll open up for questions and answers. Why do people want to start a business? Believe they have a unique product or service that will be obviously useful to somebody else, so that the entrepreneur gets paid, and want to be their own boss and want to build something. And by the way, some people will say, I want to get rich, or at least you can make a good living. And that's one of the reason you want to start your own business. Now, want to build a lifestyle business that is becoming very popular. You might have seen many of the YouTubers, what they call. There are millions and millions of hits on some of the YouTubes, like a cooking or the travel are 2 of the very popular ones. Again, many kinds of businesses and products, services, professional services, as well as non-profits. Now, I want to give you a little bit of what kind of are really the qualities that make you an entrepreneur. Okay, first of all, you got to have the passion. Okay, passion for launching and growing your business and for the product or the service you are selling. It's just not the passion is not just enough. Then you got to have a tenacity and perseverance. In my own company, I have come across both of these things. Never give up, keep going. There will be failures, but you have to keep going. Then the third feature, a characteristic, is the resiliency. Yes, there will be failures, but you need to recover quickly from the failure and then keep going. Then the leadership is critical, whether it's a startup business or whether it's a big business. And it's really about guiding and impacting the outcome and enabling groups of people to work together, right? I mean, even if you're a startup company, you cannot go alone. So you need to get the group of people to work together to accomplish your product or service. So that's really the characteristics of a successful entrepreneur. Now, as I said before, starting from scratch, that's what most of the people think about when you want to start a business. However, you can buy an existing business, or you can license a business or a brand. That's a franchising. So let's look at each one of them. So the starting from scratch, obviously you have the total control, you make all the decisions, you keep all the profits. However, disadvantage is you got to create your operating systems, and remember, not all businesses that start from scratch succeed. and there will be a few years before you make any money. And then once you start looking for funding, then even though there are so many sources of funding, it's not easy to get money in the time frame that you want. Now, the second way is really buy an existing business. So you know the cash flow, you know the historical results, at least presented by the seller. And then if you want to raise money, this is a lot more attractive, buying an existing business than starting from scratch. And you know the established location, you know the customer base. So the disadvantage is really, you can go through the books, obviously you do the due diligence, but really you don't know how successful, how really that business is going to be. So remember, those are all the historical results, not the future predictions. And then you start thinking why the seller want to sell. So you may never know why he wants to sell anyway. But the employees may quit. So you have to really train and hire new employees. Now, franchising is really licensing a business or a brand. You know, almost everybody know about big franchises like a Dunkin' Donut, McDonald's, Burger King, but there are so many smaller or really not well-known brands or businesses you can buy. So advantage is name recognition. Then there is a proven business systems, operating systems, and they do provide the training and support. The disadvantage is really you need to be operating in the territory that is provided to you. For example, it's a territory in New England, you cannot open a store in Midwest. And then remember, you have to pay the royalty. So the money you make, you cannot keep all the money you make. So that's a downside. So in any case, in any way you start your business, the best is really what we call owner financing. That means dip into the savings and other liquid assets. I don't recommend dipping into the credit card because unless you have an ability to pay on time, the interest rate is going to be very, very high. Instead, if you have a home and a home equity, it's better to get a home equity loan. It's at a lower interest rate, even though I know it's going up right now, but still much lower than what you end up paying credit card. Or you can take some personal loans as well. Before any of that, you should really approach your friends and relatives and see how much you can get. It's really not a charity. You know, you need to really tell them upfront. Either you get a loan, you pay interest, or you can give them some equity or a combination of the two. So this is the best way to start your company. Then the second bucket or second category, I call it is ecosystems. You can get some money through the business plan competition. There are quite a few. Then the grants, I'm going to go in detail about the grants. And then a set of institutions, really, incubators or accelerators. And then there is a crowd funding as well. So let us take a look at business plan competition. Most of the business plan competitions are organized by universities. So again, if you are in this area, if you are a student or you affiliate or the alumni, you can always apply for the business plan competition in any of the universities. And in this area, MIT is very popular and famous. Then HBS, Babson, Dartmouth, BU, UMass, you name it. Most of the universities have business plan competition. The U dot pitch is not a business, it's not by university, and anybody really can apply. Any entrepreneur can apply and get the money through the future founders. Okay, that's the name of the company right now. So this is, you can apply there as well. Then there are other organizations, not that popular, American Chemical Society. Then there is a Draper Competition for Women. Then the last one is Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. Obviously you have to be a student for that. So these are some of the ways you can apply for business plan competition and get some money. Now the grants are very popular, and many of the grants are given out monthly and many quarterly, and some are yearly. And many of them here, believe it or not, are for women and specifically for minority women. The Amber grant is for women, Alice for minorities and women. Again, you can click on these things and get some more details, and every one of them you can apply online, and it shouldn't take too long. It may be half an hour to an hour. The third one is the Girl Boss Foundation. It happens to be really for African Americans. Then the FedEx is for anybody and everybody who has a FedEx account. NASC is National Association of Self-Employed. That's only they give you the 4,000, but 4,000 is 4,000. Cartier Women's Initiative Award is a big one. It's a very high competition as well. I think they give regional awards, not all over the places. They give up to $100,000 in the award. The Halstead is only for the jewelry designers. And then there are a bunch of state grants. This one happens to be a database maintained by C2ER. So you had to pay like $360 to apply for this, and then you can apply. You can click on this. There are Massachusetts, there are 73 programs. Then any other state, there are so many other programs as well. Out of that, I think Massachusetts had a 31 grant. Again, if you don't want to pay $364, you can really do a Google search. A lot of things you can find on Google, and then apply to the appropriate granting agency. So these are all the state grants. In addition to that, there are federal grants. There are two sources. They're a little bit different, but you should take a look at both of them. This one is called US government grants, US grants. Again, it's all online application. Here you go, apply online, blah, blah, blah. You can just create an account and apply online. The other one goes to a different web page, and there are a lot of details here you can go through. Now, one type of grant, really a combination, is called, from the federal grant, is called SBIR, STTR. The difference between SBIR and STTR is STTR, you have to work with another university in collaboration with another university, whereas SBIR, you can apply your own as long as you have a small business. This is from fiscal year 19, a little bit old. I haven't gotten the latest one. I don't have it, how I can get the latest one either. But This one will tell you the amount of money they give out every year. There literally billions of dollars. And in fiscal year 24, probably it went up, maybe double. So remember, each of these agencies will give you or apply for the grant. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to have any clearance, because the Department of Defense here, DoD, spends a lot of money on civilians without any clearance. So you should take a look at every agency. In fact, some 15, 20 years ago, I got a money when I was at a startup company, $3 million from, hold on a minute, from, let's see, it's really Department of Commerce. It's called NIST. They used to have a program called Advanced Technology Program, ATP. Maybe they are a different program now, but it only took about 3 months to get the money by the time we apply. So they are very fast turnaround. So I would say anywhere between 3 to 6 months, you should be able to get the money. And once you get the money, it could be for a year or 3 years. And then only thing they really require is a quarterly report. And then sometimes maybe you want to show the progress. Again, as the name suggests, this is not for opening a restaurant or for opening a gym. This is really, as the name suggests, there should be an innovation component. It's called Small Business Innovation Research. It doesn't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to be software or hardware. It could be one of my client has gotten this SBIR. He was doing artificial legs and artificial limbs. I mean, that's pretty high tech, but there is no software there. So yes, it has to be you got to have some innovative idea. It could be in the transportation related, it could be climate related, it could be anything related, but it has to have some of innovation research. Okay, now the incubators or accelerators, there used to be a difference between the incubator and accelerator. Incubator was, as the name suggested, you have an idea, you will have an association like Mass Challenge, will provide you some grant, provide you mentor, and provide you some office space as well. So once you are at a certain stage, then you could apply to accelerator. But now, really, the shade of differentiation is not there. So every one of them, you can call them incubator and or accelerator. In this area, Mass Challenge is a good one. And the Y Combinator is based out in California, but anybody from any place can apply for Y Combinator. Code Launch, I think, again, anybody can apply. In Harvard Innovation Lab, MIT Global Startup Labs, they are probably, again, have to have some association with Harvard and or MIT. Whereas Cubic Labs, anybody can apply. But again, you can Google it and you can get the latest one. These are not the only ones. There may be half a dozen or more. You should take a look at them. And probably everybody is familiar or heard about the crowdfunding. You really have to pay attention to the terms and conditions. None of them are free, and they will take a percentage of the money you raise through them, and they take a percentage of every transaction. So again, this one is shopify.com. You can look into that one. And each one of them, they tell you the details. Okay, there you go, 5% of the fee plus transaction fee between 3 and 5%. That's pretty typical. The only one that is different is the start engine. This is the fourth interview. There is some expense. So even this is not free as well. By the way, you know this guy from Shark Tank? He is not an employee, but everywhere you have this company, he comes as a spokesperson, and I bet he gets paid for that as well. So Start Engine is a little bit different, and the rest of them really have different in a way. Their mission is GoFundMe, as you know, is for personal funding for if something happens, some kind of a catastrophic personal situation. The other one, like a Fundable, is for non-profit. Patreon is for artists. Mighty Cause, I think, is for non-profit as well. Now, debt financing, any way you call it, is a loan. Okay. Our friends here can give you a lot more on the bank loan. There are multiple different types of bank loans: revolving credit, working capital, line of credit. Then obviously bank loan, you need to have a collateral, and also they will assess your credit score as well. So if you don't have a good credit score, then there is a set of companies called peer-to-peer lending, and obviously they do charge a higher interest rate than the banks, but there are a lot of them. You can click through this one and look at many of the peer-to-peer lending companies. In addition to those two, there is everywhere there are community development financial institutions, what they call a CDFI. Again, look at them and see whether you can apply to any of those. These are loans, and then equipment leasing is really a type of loan, because if it is you are in the construction industry, you are in heavy machinery, or really a big kitchen in the big, it doesn't have to be big, it's an industrial kitchen, that will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they will get that upfront, and then there is a lease terms. You can pay the money back in terms of 3 to 5 year lease. The next one is invoice and receivable financing. Again, if you have an invoice, but you have the terms like a payable in 90 days, then you don't have any money, because your customer will hold on to that and he will pay you at the end of 90 days. So if you want to have the money right away, you can present that invoice to some of the companies, and then you can get the money right away. But obviously they do charge an interest. So once you get your money from the customer, you can pay off. So the next set of slides, I'm going to focus on small business administration. There are variety different types of loans. I want to make it very clear, small business administration is not a bank. It's not going to provide you any money. However, it only guarantees the bank, not you. So what you do is you apply for at a bank. There are a lot of banks. There are participants in this SBA guaranteed loan programs. Bank decides if yes, but it is an SBA-backed loan. The bank underwrites based on the SBA policy. If the loan is approved, the bank will close it and service the loan. So borrower works with the bank, not with the SBA. However, SBA or SCORE can help you on your business plan and cash flow analysis, etc. Okay, these are long maturities, collateral, as I said before, and there are some, obviously bank wants to minimize their own risk, and terms are up to 10 years for working capital, 25 years for fixed asset. Again, interest rate is between you and the bank, and this used to be, still it is true, it cannot exceed prime plus 2 3/4. So right now the prime is pretty high. So if you add up, it could be, I don't know, bank people will tell you, it could be between 6 and 8. So you got to have a business plan, and you have to have the team. They look at the management experience, and obviously they will look at whether you put in some money of your own. Then do you have a sufficient collateral, etc. To be eligible for an SBA loan, you should be you should be operating as a for-profit. And then the second item here is not to exceed SBA size standards. If you Google it, SBA size standard, almost all the small businesses can fit in there because their income is pretty high depending on the type of industry you are in, and number of employees too. There could be anywhere between 50, 100. There is pretty high limit as well. So most of the startup businesses will fit in this SBA size, so you don't have to worry about it. But once you get the money, you cannot use it for reinvesting, or you cannot lend that money to somebody else, or you cannot get a real estate or get a house for investment. So you need to really use it for the money you said you're going to use it for. Again, this is the typical or the standard SBA guaranteed loan is called 7A loan program. Again, you can read into the details here. I'm not going to go through this. The next one is really a combination of SBA backed along with the bank, and the third player is a CDC. So it's called a 504 loan program. It's structured like a three-way, really two-way. SBA is really giving you a guarantee. It's really a bank and a CDC. So maximum loan amount is about 5 million. Maximum guarantee is 100% of the SBA portion. Again, it's for long-term fixed assets. Maturity is anywhere between 10 to 20 years. Just exception is 5.5 for manufacturing or green projects. Again, eligible users of the 504 loan is similar to the other type of loan. And really the proceed requirements are very close to the other type of loan. And ineligible users for 504 are pretty much the same as the before. Now, there is what they call as SBA micro loan, is up to 50,000. Interest rate, I think, is still below 9%, 6-year repayment terms. It can be used for working capital, inventory, machinery, furniture, or refinancing a business. Now, let's talk about equity financing. Equity financing means person who funds you will want to have a percentage of your company. That's equity. So the first one is if you can have a partner, and you can have one or more than one partner, and again you have set up terms with your partner about the percentage equity. If you give your partner a 50%, so you're really 50%, 50%, you are equal partners in terms of money you have put in. Again, you don't have to. You can have any kind of a negotiation with one or more partners so that you can keep still a majority stake in your own company. Another way is really another company. The best way is if your customer is going to finance a portion of your company, that's probably the best way. And make sure that another company doesn't own you. So that means you have to retain over 50% of equity. And then you work with your own customer as a financing agency or one or more than one company. Now, the other one is very popular. Everybody knows about this, called IPO, initial public offering. So that means you are listing your company into one of those agencies, which is NASDAQ, S&P, or New York Stock Exchange. The reason you want to list is really to raise the money, not to get rich. However, the byproduct is hopefully you will get rich, because after you list in the public market, after a few months, it's typically 6 months, you can get a portion of your equity liquid. That means you can sell a portion, not whole, of whatever you own. A portion that you own, you can sell in the open market at the open price like anybody else, and you get your money, some money back. But as I said before, IPO is to raise the money so that you can grow your company. That's the main and only purpose going IPO. Now, in addition to the IPO, there are what they call private markets. There are three categories. One is the angel investors. Angel investors could be individual investors, or it could be a pool of investors. They are putting together their money, and they have some structure, and they have a process. I was one of the angel investor company before I joined SCORE. I was managing their deals. I can go through that as well. Then this is angel investors, is to raise your what they call a seed money. Once you have your seed money, you make a little more progress. And if you want to, obviously, you have to have some more money, a lot more money in terms of millions. Then the next one is really go through what they call a VC, venture capitals. The last one I'm going to touch briefly is really what they call a private equity market. It's not applicable for any of the startups. This is really applicable for the big established companies. Now, you can Google it, you can get the latest one, but all these companies are in the Boston area, in the New England area. In addition to that, there are probably half a dozen more. So before you apply any of these angel investing agencies or angel investing companies, you really need to look at their website. You need to look at what kind of companies they have been investing, because they tend to invest in similar companies, similar industries. And before you apply, or one of the selection criteria is to see whom do you know in that angel group. So it's always pays to make the contact, or it always pays to have a referral from a friend of yours. They know one of the people who make the decision, or one of the people who are investing the money. So it's really critical that you somehow make the contact. And once you apply, you need to follow through. So because then in a couple of weeks, you should really talk to them or send an email saying what is happening with my application. So angel investing, anywhere from, say, 100,000 to $1 million. If you need that kind of money, you can apply to one of these angel investing companies. The last one is Golden Seeds, is only for women. I think it's run by women and only for women. The rest of them, anybody can apply. Now, I said venture capitalists and private equity, they differ in terms of the type of companies they invest in. VCs will invest in the early stage startup companies, whereas the PEs invest in the mature companies, usually the companies that are in trouble. The level of capital invested, again, VCs invest Actually, you really need to request the VCs how much money you need, but they do invest money, not to majority, maybe few percentage of your company, whereas the PEs are really trying to invest and buy out the troubled companies. That means they're investing 100% of the market value. The amount of equity they obtain through the investment again is different. The VCs obviously, will have the equity less than 50%, and the PEs will buy the company. That means they are investing 100% of the equity. When they get involved in a company's life cycle, VCs are early, whereas private equities are in a mature company, specifically when the company is in trouble. Again, this one is half a dozen or so companies in this area. I would really recommend you to Google them and really study them before you apply to any of these VC firms. What my advice to any of the startup companies are, you should pick anywhere between 3 to 6. You should apply for 3 to 6 sources of capital for equity capital. You can pick 1 or 2 angel investors, or if you know 1 or 2 angel investor companies in addition to the VCs. So really you don't have to wait for the angel investor money to run its course and then you apply for VCs. Many of the VCs do apply or provide you the seed money as well. So I would really encourage you to apply for a couple of them in each category: the individual investors, the angel investor companies, and VC firms. Again, private equities, if anybody is interested, there are half a dozen or so here, but there are quite a few more in any of the areas in Boston or in California, any place. Okay, now let's look at some of the funding statistics. This data is about 4 or 5 years old, but what we did in SCORE is an interview or about 1,000 companies, companies started by entrepreneurs. So it's a pretty good amount of data. So what you see here is 63% of people got funded through personal funds, as I said, owner financing. And another 27 came from another job, and 11% from friends. A bank loan is about 11%, and some people got cash advance. And as you can see, only 3% of people got it from investors, about 2% from grants, and less than 2% from crowdfunding. I guess probably this is the same kind of statistics probably even now. So what that means is you have to have skin in the game. You got to get some money in the company to start off. Now, once you have the money, how did they spend the money? Purchasing equipment, as you know, most of the companies with a brick and mortar, they need equipment. So there's 63% of them. You need to have inventory, about 48% of the money is used there. Marketing is a big ticket item, about 48%. Leasing and preparing the business location, product development comes down, hiring the staff, about 25% of the money. And the last one, don't forget to pay for yourself, because once or really during the application process, there should be a line item saying, yes, I'm taking the money out of this fund. I can focus full time on this company as opposed to part time. So that the investors want to hear that. And so don't be bashful. And again, you don't have to be, drawing a very high salary as well. So really think about how much money you need to have a decent living, and then you ask for that kind of a money. from the investors. Okay. So I think that wraps up what I'm trying to say. So we have some time. Teresa?
Yeah, question. So if you can welcome our bank folks back, we do have a question.
I'll stop sharing, or you want to keep it open?
You, either way, you could stop sharing. That's fine. Yeah, so I have questions for both of you. So let's start with the bank question. Do you need a business checking account to get a bank loan?
That would be one of the requirements. So if let me back up. So you can apply for a loan without having a business banking relationship, but if you are approved, one of the steps would be to have a business account, so we can auto debit the payment.
Here's a grant question. I've looked at government grants before, but it seems like many of them are geared towards nonprofits that are furthering some goal of the state agency. In your experience, have you found that to be true as well?
No, because non-profit is one, and even the government agencies, including MAS or especially the federal government, I know I did apply for that. Absolutely not. The SBIR is specifically for profit. So I would say, in my experience, they give out money for profit companies than non-profit in terms of the total amount of dollars.
Okay. Yeah, I think actually we ran something a year ago. There was a special grant that came out for like retail businesses in downtown Boston. So I mean, they're out there. It's finding them. That's the hard part.
Yep.
Okay. Are micro loans generally easier to get? Do you still need a business plan to get one? That might be a good question for both our presenter and get a bank perspective on that as well. That'd be great.
Yeah, let Robert go first. I'll chime in.
You want me to go first? Okay. As far as the SBA microloans, I personally have not had any experience with the SBA microloans. Here at the bank, we have something that's quite unique. We have a service called Lending Front, which any business can access through our website, and that allows a potential startup as well as a seasoned business owner to apply. It's a quick apply up to $250,000. That could be a line of credit or a term loan. So that is going well here at the bank. But unfortunately, I don't have any experience with any type of micro loan. Perhaps Lynn Walquist, who is also a commercial lender and is on the webinar, she may, but I don't personally.
Yeah, let me chime in. When I say business plan, people are afraid. But for getting any loan, including the micro loan, SBA needs to have some documentation. So having said that, the business plan could be 2 pages, 1 page, executive summary. It's not that hard. You need to really outline how much money you're looking for and what the money is going to be used for. So, I mean, that's not that hard to come up with. So I would advise you, even if you don't have a requirement, I would advise you to put down a couple of things, put down on paper. That's good for you and good for getting the loan.
Now, Lynn, did you want to add to that question?
Just to piggyback on what Shankar was saying, if you're a startup, all banks and even the SBA is going to require a business loan, projections, and how you're going to repay it. What's the collateral? If it's equipment, usually the equipment is going to be the collateral for the loan. But if it's for equipment, and let's just say you need money to at least build out leasehold improvements, banks are going to want collateral, because if hypothetically you cannot repay the debt, the banks want to know how you're going to repay them. So what they'll ask or do is they'll go to the SBA and try to get an SBA guarantee, or they'll ask, do you have a home that you could pledge as, we could do a second lien on? Do you have any deposits in an account, we could use that to secure the checking account, the CD, and use that as collateral. So we kind of look at this on a case-by-case scenario, but again, banks like to repay, so we look a lot at the cash flow of the business, because that's going to determine if the company is going to generate enough cash flow to repay the debt, and then collateral, I would say.
Yeah, how important is the business owner's personal credit score to getting that business loan?
It's really important. Banks usually have a minimum credit score of what they'll accept from a business owner. So it's really, really, really important to, if you don't know what your credit score is, everyone has access to a free credit report. When you get the credit report, look through it, make sure there's no discrepancies. If there are, they need to be addressed. Because if your credit score is below the bank minimum, they may say, hey, why don't you come back after you're able to raise your credit score above a certain threshold. If the company is very strong financially, maybe it's hard to say, because you have to look at these on a case-by-case scenario, case-by-case basis. But if the company is doing very, very well, has very strong cash flow, has really good collateral, then maybe the bank might, those other aspects are, weigh a little bit more heavily than the personal credit score. So the bank might make an exception for you on that. But again, I would say just make sure you look at your credit score every year, make sure it's accurate. And if it is low, then there are strategies to raise your credit score.
Does the East Cambridge Savings Bank finance export businesses?
That's a good question. I myself have not done that. We would have to look into that, and maybe we can get back to you with an answer through through SCORE SBA.
Yeah, same here. I've never, not with East Cambridge Savings Bank.
But they should just probably set up a meeting with banks and discuss, or give a call and talk to different banks to see what they do. Okay, because it's
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Do service companies need cash flow to get a loan from a bank? If a pre-revenue services company has a solid business plan, is that sufficient to get a bank loan?
Possibly. It really depends on, I mean, we would need a phenomenal business plan. I mean, startups have to realize that there's significant risk to the bank, and East Cambridge Savings Bank, and I believe along with other small community banks, will look at startups. Number one, we want a solid business plan, PGs, which would be personal guarantees, and most likely we would heavily look into an SBA guarantee to limit the risk of the bank.
There's somebody looking for a 7A loan. Should they contact the SBA or the bank first?
I would recommend the bank, and then we can work with a certified development company or a CDC.
Can you use a Roth investment for collateral?
That would, as the actual collateral. I mean, I've seen Roths that would typically be on a PFS, a personal financial statement, which we would have every borrower complete. I don't believe I've ever would use that as collateral directly, but we would. I mean, if it was on a PFS and the individual had a high net worth, assets minus liabilities, we would take that into consideration. But I don't believe we can use that.
Yeah, typically we use checking savings accounts or CDs to secure loans. Roths are kind of considered retirement, so I think the bank wants, the bank doesn't want to take away your retirement funds if something should happen. I don't believe we would do that. So I would just say it's typically for cash secured loans, it's a checking account, savings account, or a CD.
Yeah, just some additional examples for collateral. The bank does like to see a bill of sales, invoices for collateral being purchased with loan proceeds, current accounts receivable, which we call ARs. That's money owed to the business. Potentially potential a list of other equipment, inventory, and other fixed assets.
I have an EAD, but not a green card. Can I apply for an SBA loan to fund my business? I have okay, he has lots of experience. Yeah, do you know if you can get an SBA loan without a green card, but an EAD?
I think employment authorization, right? EAD.
I'm assuming so, yes.
Yeah, I think so. This is, I think, almost getting close to the green card. I think you can.
Okay. Will banks provide loans based on cash on hand from equity and a good business plan? What is the average for multiples on cash on hand banks are willing to take? If I raise 100K in equity, will a bank give me a loan that's 3 times that cash?
I don't believe East Cambridge Savings Bank would do that. Other banks may, I mean, may have offer some type of collateralized lending. Lynn, what do you think?
Well, so banks kind of follow a formula when they're looking at a loan request. It's always good. We always look at to see if the owners are how much equity they're putting into the business. But that being said, again, we look at other factors as well. So we look at collateral, what is going to be used to secure the loan, the character of the owner, what kind of experience do they have in the industry? What's their education? Do they have a good reputation in the industry? So we look at some other factors. We also look at the economic condition of the economy. What's the economy doing? How's that industry doing within the economy? So I can say for East Cambridge Savings Bank, do we do strict cash flow loans? No, we don't. We will look at what the collateral is, the character of the company, economic conditions. We don't really look at the multiples. We look at the historical performance of the company. The other thing that we look at is the cash flow. And I'm sorry, I think whatever the question was basing it on, was it projections? Did I hear that right?
The amount of cash on hand.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. How long does the process of securing funding typically take? If someone were to start now, would they have funding by January, for example?
So it's really important before you go to a bank to apply for a loan, it's really important to get yourself prepared. So what that looks like is getting all your financial information together, whether it's, gathering your personal tax returns, your business tax returns, putting together your projections, having them already like in a package. You're going to package your loan requests. So it's really important to get the financials together. The other thing is, if you're a rather new business, meaning under 2 years, banks may want to see a business plan. So it's really important to have your business plan ready, prepared and ready to go. SCORE is a fantastic resource. If you want to sit down with SCORE and have them, go over with them your business plan, or they can oversee you as you're putting together your business plan. So let's see, financials, your business plan, projections, your personal credit, your credit score. Do you know what your score is? Have you checked it recently to see if there's any discrepancies? So you want to clean those up as much as possible. The other thing that's really key is if you already have debt, you want to see, is your company going to be able to generate enough cash flow to cover the existing debt, but also the debt that you're looking to borrow? So there is a formula to figure out your company's cash flow. SCORE can definitely help you with that. Or, you know, you can discuss it with your banker and maybe they can help you work with you on figuring that. But it's always good before you go to a bank to really get yourself prepared. I hope that answers the question.
No, that's great, Lynn. You're
Thanks,
absolutely
Lynn.
right. That business plan is a key place to start. It shows that you've thought through the details, that you've looked, really thought through all the details for your business to be ready. So I think it's extremely important to definitely start with that business plan and have your package, so to speak, ready to go to the bank. I do have a few questions in here about whether, people are asking if they could get approved in different scenarios. It's a case by case situation, and no one can really answer that type of a question just from a paragraph of information. So I definitely encourage you to work with SCORE, to visit your bank, and to start that process of getting your information together. Shankar, did you have any closing comments?
No, I think any source of funding, as I said before, it's not easy to get, and it always takes a lot more time than you think. So be prepared and don't get discouraged. So you got to tap or apply for multiple sources of funding, not just one or two.
Okay, great, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us today. There will be a follow-up email. Please watch for it with the handout with the different links that Shankar presented. I'll also providing contact information for East Cambridge Savings Bank, and the information for the next in this series that we're offering on financial management. So thank you everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Teresa.